揺れた予感だ世界にだんだん僕は好きと思って見えなくなって見つけないで僕のことを見つめないで
Alright, welcome back to another Orfist deck profile. I finally went to Legacy Cup in Virginia, and the turnout was great. I had a super fun time at the event, and this is the list that I ran with. So, Orfist Ride Line. Remaining copies of Orfist. It was kind of funny. I had my round 2 opponent, Team Best Girl. Shoutouts to you, man. He didn't know this thing got 5k on rear guard. So in a super late game scenario, he ended up throwing this on side with a token, and he didn't realize that it broke 33 for a magic number. And that has come up with me like once, 2 times in this entire time I've been playing this deck, where I have to throw it on the sideline to attack with it. But of course, you want to ride it for the Persona ride because it's insanely strong. A big difference between my deck and his deck is that I chose to play Places of the Draw order, 2 copies of the Retire order, and then 2 copies of this. He chose to play 9 orders. He had a playset of that, and then right now I was playing a free space essentially. Rudis was just here for no reason. I didn't know what to take this out for, because I didn't want to draw orders, because I didn't want to brick in some capacity. But that was just essentially a free space. Outside of turn 2, this card doesn't have as much value as I thought it would. The scenarios where I had to use this, I was already in a bad scenario or a bad situation against Bruce, and this really hurt me. Because I had 2 face-up damage, I didn't draw the second order. Essentially, this card is not useful outside of turn 2. As much as I wanted to convince myself, and there were very niche situations where this came up, it would have just been better for me to play smarter, use Bubble Mine potentially a turn earlier, and then rebuild the board with Counterblast 2. But this is, I'm going to take down to 1. I'm effectively going to copy his list outside of like 1 more front trigger. Because I want to experiment with the 9 orders and hard mull for them, and I don't feel bad about discarding them for Ride Line anymore. Also, I understand the value of this card, finally. Being able to target retire Marjorie or Leonard in the Bruce matchup is so important, and I realize that now because prior to this event, NYC is just playing Bastion for some reason. NYC is not understanding the true strength of Bruce, because while I want to sit here and say we're in a triangle format, we're not. Bruce is just an S tier deck, and there's nothing that can counter it. It beats the bricks off a prison. It destroys this deck way too easily. It can auto win against Bastion because it's just stronger. Being able to hit lines that will break 53 is insane. It's absolutely insane. So I'm going to be moving to the 9 order lineup, and I'm going to see how that goes. 4 of this grade 2. He also mentions that turn 2 you can use the order to get 1 token and then use this to kill the token and snipe something if your opponent tries to rush you, or more importantly, you could do this to snipe their forerunner for Bruce Ride Line. So this is incredibly important. Also, the fact that it becomes a 15k so that you can have 30k lines, 40 plus Persona Ride or front trigger is very important. But being able to target retire is huge, and being able to retire with this is also very important. Unfortunately, this was not as effective as I wanted this to be. It was not as impactful as I was hoping, even though I played matchups where this is useful. I fought Magnolia, I fought Bruce, I ended up fighting Bastion like round 1, but the fact that my opponent can choose really makes me dislike this card, only because they have obvious counterplay to it. They can choose to take something that isn't important to off of their board, which is still good because I'm going to be able to out advantage them in terms of unit economy because I can keep spamming for tokens. But unfortunately, this card is super not as impactful as I wanted it to be, but it isn't bad. I'm definitely going to keep this in though. 4 PGs, nothing special off of that. Thumberino, this card is really stupid. You can make, what, like 38 off of this, and that's insane. If you really want to, you can put this turn 2, make 38, so that you can just have an insane push line that can play over like 2D triggers or something like that, if you set up your board correctly. So turn 2 pressure is incredible, but this card really shines turn 3 onward, where you can establish super high numbers. For Bubble Mine, this card I am going to keep in forever. I'm not going to play any other counter charger in this deck because the value that this provides in Prison, and it is a self-sufficient card, is so important, especially when I ended up realizing, because I lost the mirror match against Best Girl because I knew how to play it slow, but this dude just didn't care and just beat the bricks off of me. Turn 2 onward, he was just completely aggressive. And something I didn't value that he did was he ended up giving 5k to the token, so it's 20 and beats over a defensive trigger. Of course, if he checks a trigger, it's 30, and that's I have to take that. It's a 2-card guard. But what he would do is he would use the token, the order, to make a token, and then he would use this to refund the counterblast. So if I wanted to play smart, I could swing sides to damage deny him, but if for whatever reason I wasn't able to do that, and for whatever reason I chose not to do that, he would have the second counterblast and he'd be able to pop off. So this de-incentivizes your opponent to damage deny you when you're being aggressive on your turn 2 play, because your damage is already face up. If they deal 1 damage to you, then you have the 2 CB for Orfist, but if for whatever reason they swing double sides and they don't attack your Vanguard, you're still okay and you're ahead in terms of tempo and econ, because the next turn you can play conservative that turn, and then the next turn you're going to make your tokens anyways and you're going to push them in. So there are so many interactions that Bubble Mine has, which allows it to be a much more self-sufficient card, and that is incredibly important. One Rudis, this is a blank space. This is not supposed to be in here because I didn't know what else to put in. This is just here in theory for Bruce and just playing aggressive. If I see this early, I just play it down and just keep it on the board turns 1, 2, 3 of the game, and then turn 4 I'm more than likely to call over this with something else. But this has its uses. It's come up because it can attack turns 1 and 2, and then turn 3 I make tokens, and then it sets up a 25k line. But it's super awkward because ideally this is in like an attacker on one side, but it's only 25. It does not break 30, which is over the 28k threshold for 2-card guard or front trigger. So this is kind of undervalued, or it's kind of not that great in that regard, but overall this is just a filler spot, and now I know what I'm going to take this ad for. But of course, like, it's super nice to throw it down early. For trigger lineup, I was playing 7 crit, 1 over. Shout out to the guy who ended up buying this off of him. Super nice. 4 front, because I value the front triggers and the shield value, and then 4 heals. So I had a wonderful time during the event. Unfortunately, once again, I only got 9th, but that's okay. So absolutely, I'm going to be making more content since the tournament is over, and I'm going to get a bunch of stupid deck profiles from my teammates, especially for one of them that was playing a, Iron Chain, double Alchemagic. You're a madman. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.